Dr. Rachana Kulkarni, welcome again to ITV Gold. Thank you so much for giving us your time here.
Thank you, Aditi. Always a pleasure to be here.
Of course, we have to have you because so much is happening in the nation right now as we speak. So let's dig right into it. I have some numbers here that I'd like to say. Today, we're looking at globally 69.1 million cases and at least 1.57 million deaths. In the United States, we have reached more than 15.5 million cases with at least 290,000 deaths. My question to you is, how are we supposed to process these numbers and what are these numbers truly indicating?
It's a very grim milestone, Aditi, in the medical history of United States. And I'll tell you from perspective of a cardiologist that cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in the United States for decades. It's the leading cause of deaths and disability for years. And yesterday we hit a grim milestone that now COVID has killed more people in a year than heart disease.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very sobering, and I do believe that a lot of it is coming because two factors. One is the virus is mutating. It has become a lot more contagious. Fortunately, the virus-related hospitalization is up here.
Right.
However, fortunately, the deaths are a little lower, at least in the New York, New Jersey area, because I think this is our second go around and we know how to treat patients.
Right.
Not so many patients are being hospitalized, but we all, in my opinion, are seeing the after effects of COVID fatigue by people, and also that a lot of people did not pay attention or any heed to the warnings and did see their friends, families, and had get together over Thanksgiving. And I think we are going to see the surge of that between now and I hope people learn from this mistake and don't get together with their families for Christmas. But if we do that, then we are going to see the same surge in January.
Right. The Midwest as well as the West is literally ravaging with COVID-19 as we speak right now. The hospital systems are getting overwhelmed. Why are those two regions, surging with cases at that capacity? What should their governors or their officials do at this point to truly curb this disease?
In my opinion, I do believe that at this point, we need to have a mask mandate. People should be wearing masks. It's a contagious virus, but so is flu. But the way you combat that, we don't have a vaccine yet. But the way we combat this is hand washing, wearing a facial covering, and social distancing. And if we do that, a lot of these infections can be prevented. Because keep in mind, once someone gets infected, that person is going to have a ripple effect because it's a highly contagious virus.
Yes, for sure. While we are talking about the tri-state, you're in New Jersey, we're in New York City, we saw one of the worst phases of COVID-19 in these areas. While you're seeing a surge on the other part of the country, should we be worried on this part of the country? Do you see that trend coming this way a little bit more?
I certainly see that. We are definitely in the second surge. We have lived through the first surge, and we knew that during late summer and early fall, hospitals hardly had any COVID patients, one or two. Now hospitals are full, and floors, wards, what we call, for hospitals are full. There are a lot of patients in intensive care unit. Although we now have therapeutic agents, we do have remdesivir, we do have monoclonal antibodies. So we have options to treat them. We also have learned about the disease and how to treat the disease successfully a little bit from our first go around. But this virus is not to be taken lightly, and we definitely are seeing a surge in the tri-state area.
Definitely. When you're talking to doctors across the nation, I know you have a lot of colleagues in different parts. What are they telling you in terms of hospital capacity, PPE supply, the beds and ventilators? Again, looking back at New York and New Jersey, there were times that they absolutely ran out of all of those very essential, equipments for COVID-19. What could you give us about what's happening in the nation in regards to that right now?
Sure. Our colleagues in the West Coast and Midwest, they definitely are struggling to keep up with their ventilators. Their ICUs are getting full, almost full. When a hospital reaches 75% of its ventilator and ICU capacity, that's a red sign, that's a warning sign, because then it cannot deal with another disaster. And in the United States, you never ever want to be in a position that someone needs a ventilator and the hospital system does not have one. We're getting close to that in California. We're getting close to that in the Northwest, and we should all be very careful. PPE supplies, fortunately, most hospitals have stockpiled throughout the summer and fall. So my colleagues tell me that most of them have a good amount of supply. But ventilators, people are reaching capacity.
Some of these governors of these states that are surging with cases are now putting on stay-at-home orders, but certain governors still don't even have a mask mandate. My question to you is, A, do we need a shutdown in some of these states like we had again in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut in May and April? Do we need that to happen? And also, what's your advice to these officials that are specifically in these surging states?
There is very simple advice, Aditi. Listen to science. Science tells you how to prevent this virus. So listen to science, and let's not make mask a political thing.
Right. Yes, for sure. That's so true. Just a mask, right? That's all you need to really protect yourself.
And wash your hands, social distance. Yes. 3 simple, easy things.
Yes. How important?
I have to tell you, I run a very large cardiology practice. We never closed down for a single day during this pandemic. All of my colleagues, including myself, we go to the hospital, we take care of COVID patients. Touch wood, so far, no one in our practice got COVID. Yeah. All our staff, which are in triple digits, none of them got COVID. Why? Because we are following the ABCs.
Right. It's so true. I hope everybody also follows these ABCs. Let's talk a little bit about therapeutics. I know you mentioned remdesivir. Are there any other therapeutics we should know about right now? Anything new coming in with more research and more understanding?
We do have monoclonal antibodies at this point, although most hospitals have this, and there are strict criteria as to how to use them, but they're available. Steroids are being widely used, and the biggest light at the end of the tunnel is the vaccine, and it looks like it's within our reach now.
Yes, for sure. Now let's actually dig in there and talk about the vaccine, because I have so many questions for you. Let's talk about Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccine, because that is what's making news this whole week. Right now, while we're speaking, and by the time this show airs, perhaps there might be an FDA approval for Pfizer vaccine. But right now it's approved in the UK and Canada. Can you give me an insight into what is happening in evaluating this vaccine in terms of what are they looking at and what are the mechanisms of this vaccine?
So whenever a vaccine is being developed or any new treatment modality is being developed, you always look for certain criteria. One is how long the vaccine has been studied, in how many patients, and the safety. So you always look at the power of the study. And I have to say, this whole vaccine development within a year has been very impressive. Regardless of what people might think, it's pretty much unheard of how speedily the vaccine got done. And I do believe that a big reason for that was that there was a lot of legwork that was done in kind of anticipation or preparation for that kind of vaccine. Mm-hmm. And all that legwork came to fruition with the mRNA kind of vaccine. So that technology was ready to go, and they applied it very successfully. Both Pfizer and Moderna applied it very successfully to this vaccine production. And that's why it was even possible to get such kind of vaccine in such a short time period.
Yes. Could you explain what is this mRNA that we keep on hearing about? And when we're looking at the vaccine, Dr. Kulkarni, because this is a question everyone is asking, is the virus getting injected in any manner into the body through this vaccine? What is exactly being put into the body?
Sure. So let me give you, should I tell you a little bit about vaccine? And I hope to answer the questions with that. So right now, the vaccines that are being developed in the United States, which are phase 3, vaccines go, or any kind of medication goes in 3 stages, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And phase 3 is when it's ready to go. And those are the Moderna vaccine, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Janssen, and Novavax. Those are the vaccine. And currently, according to WHO, there are 48 different kinds of clinical trials and 164 vaccines which are in production. So let's think about how vaccines work, right? Vaccines work because they all stimulate a primary immune response so that the body can develop memory, B and T cells against the COVID virus or against any other virus. And the development of the immunity memory by vaccines is what protects us or any person against the viral infection. So at this point, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine are 2-dose vaccines, right?
Right.
Because they are using the mRNA technology. So let me tell you why 2 doses. And because of the specific technology that they use, and then we can go into the mRNA.
Right.
Or I can tell you, Aditi, should I tell you about the mRNA first?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So mRNA vaccine is a unique category of vaccine that was developed and was ready to prime time, and it was successfully applied to the COVID vaccine. The RNA vaccines that consist of mRNA encoding, it's the antigen of interest, which is placed in a lipid, with what we call as LNP, lipid non-particle vehicle. The LNP prevents the mRNA degradation by the host until it is taken up by the cell. So once the mRNA vaccine is administered, the mRNA is taken up by the host cell. So it's not the vaccine, it's not a live virus, it's just a small particle of the virus, the messenger RNA, which has the code on it. So when the messenger RNA is taken up by the host cell, the intracellular lipase, which is a lytic chemical, exposes the mRNA, and then it is translated inside the cell into S protein, and it sits on the cell surface stimulating a T cell response. T cell is the antibody. So when the antibody is developed, then the body develops memory to fight the COVID antigen. The antibody is the antidote for the COVID antigen that's produced because of the infection.
Yes, for sure. You know, when we're looking at this vaccine, something that everyone's noticing are the people that were involved in it. We know there were different age groups involved, but from the information I have, it excluded, certain individuals such as pregnant women, women breastfeeding, as well as children under the age of 12. I'd like to know why they had to do that, and what happens to these group of people that were not included in these vaccine trials.
Yes, good question. Very good question. Both the Moderna and Pfizer trials were done with very surprising kind of what we call as power for a study, meaning how many people were involved. And in the Moderna study, Moderna clinical trial, there were 30,000, and in Pfizer, there were 23,000. However, first rule, especially in vaccine, is do no harm. And you have to be extremely careful with vulnerable population, children being one of them, and pregnant and breastfeeding women are the other group that you're concerned about. So when you want to get the vaccine out in an expeditious way, it is difficult to enroll such high-risk population. And I do believe that that's the reason those people were excluded. So I don't think we have enough data to know whether or not the vaccine is safe in those three categories. And we probably will need more studies to determine the safety and efficacy of the vaccine in them.
While talking about the efficacy, the Pfizer vaccine has about 95%, which looks like a really, really good number. My question to you is, how good of a number is it truly? And, will our immunity last longer? Or how long will the immunity last after taking this vaccine? Do we have information on that?
All very good questions. So let me step back a little bit. I'll tell you, most vaccines are good 60-70% of the times. The gold standard in any vaccination is considered the measles vaccine, which is a highly contagious disease, but the vaccine is very effective, and measles vaccine's efficacy is considered to be at 98%, which is unheard of. The efficacy of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine at 95% is as good as it gets. It is very, very good. And that efficacy comes with 2 dosage. So let me explain a little bit as to why 2 doses are needed. And that's the simple reason for that is to get that kind of efficacy. Because depending on how many times the body is exposed to the virus, the body can generate 2 types of immune responses. The body generates a primary immune response when exposed to the COVID vaccine let's say with the first dose of vaccine, right? The primary immune response is slow and weak because it takes the body some time to identify, decode the mRNA, and generate enough antibodies and T cells to eliminate the virus.
Right.
So with the first dose, the efficacy is 60 to 70%. However, when the body generates, when the body gets the second inoculation or the second dose of vaccine, the body develops a secondary immune response, which is much faster, much stronger, because then there is a robust production of the memory B cells and T cells, which are rapidly activated. And that's what leads to the boost in the immune response and the efficacy of the vaccine to be like 90 to 95%, because it results in higher antibody concentration and T cell counts around the body to eliminate the virus more quickly, reducing the symptoms and severity of COVID-19. So that's why the second booster dose is needed, because otherwise the efficacy will be in 60 to 70%.
Dr. Kulkarni, while we're talking about the vaccine, we're aware that healthcare workers as well as people in long-term care facilities are going to be the first individuals getting the vaccine. Do you know of any, of your colleagues that are in the line to get the vaccine? Do they have any more information on it?
I certainly want to be one of the first ones to get it because we serve in the front line. We are in the ER, we are in the hospital. So from what I'm hearing, in New Jersey, the vaccination will start as early. We're expecting that the vaccination will start as early as the week of Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And the way it works is for the Moderna vaccine, the recommendations are 2 doses, first on day 1 and the second dose on day 29. For the Pfizer vaccine, day 1 and it is day 21. So because if you consider New Jersey is a highly populated state, a lot of hospitals, and as you know, the Pfizer vaccine has to be stored at a very cold temperature.
Right.
So the supply chain has, I think, between Pfizer and American Airlines, they have gotten it under good control. The hospitals are ready to go. However, the hospitals are looking for people to deliver, meaning administer the vaccine. So hospitals are looking for vaccinators because the task is going to be monumental.
Yes, for sure. We keep on hearing the word herd immunity, and that is, having 70% of the community basically immune to COVID-19. There is a recent survey that was done which showed only 53% of Americans living in the country are okay to get the vaccine. Is that going to be enough if this is only 50% of the population getting the vaccine? How important is it for us to raise that awareness and get people to get these shots?
Extremely important because rule of thumb is more than 70% population should get inoculated, should get vaccinated for us to develop herd immunity. And I certainly hope we get there. This is a very safe vaccine. The immunity lasts, we expect the immunity to last for 1 to 2 years. Like any other vaccine, like the flu vaccine, this virus may mutate and the vaccine will have to be adjusted. But I do believe that with so many vaccines in the production line and so many getting close, like I just told you, like 5 vaccines are in phase 3 trials. So I don't think supply of the vaccine come first and second quarter of 2021 should be an issue. And I would highly encourage all the people in the United States to get vaccinated.
Yes, for sure. I think it's so important for people to get vaccinated. I feel like that's the only big weapon right now that we're waiting on against COVID-19. I just have 2 more questions left here for you, Dr. Kulkarni. Since I have you here, I have to ask you about South Asians at high risk, of heart diseases, pulmonary infections, as well as with diabetes. We have often discussed this in every interview that we have had here. What are some of the new developments you've seen with these patients, as and with COVID, as well as what do you think these patients need to watch out for right now with COVID-19 just surging across the nation?
With COVID-19 surging all across the nation, one of the reasons why we are seeing this second surge is because people are gathering together for Thanksgiving, over the holidays. And we know that South Asians, we are very family-oriented people. We love to meet, we love to celebrate our highs and lows with the family. And everyone is missing families. But what I would say is just have a little bit more patience so that you can enjoy your family for years to come. This is a very contagious virus. You have done great for last 10 months. Just have a little bit more patience and keep up with all. South Asians are very high risk for diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, very susceptible population for infection. We also tend to congregate, another risk for spreading the virus and getting infected. So please take care of your comorbidities. Please make sure you keep up with your doctor's appointment. Most doctors are going virtual now. So keep up with your blood work. Take care of all your comorbidities. You will do yourself a favor because you will reduce your risks.
And finally, my last message to you is actually a question on your prediction for the next 2 months, or maybe the next couple of weeks until January 20th, when President-elect Biden takes over office. He already has a mandate going on into COVID-19 relief, as well as figuring out a way to really curb the disease. But what is your prediction up until then?
I'm really concerned with the holiday season and the COVID fatigue, as I might add. It's very important. If we don't take appropriate precautions, we are going to see the holiday surge of COVID. And as you know, the hospitalizations lag 2 to 3 weeks behind the congregation. So I'm really concerned about state of the United States of America in the month of December and January. If we drop our guard, we are going to feel it in the weeks and months to come.
Wow. Dr. Kulkarni, I would love for you to give one last message to our audience, perhaps on the importance, again, of those 3 guidelines that we have had and we've been encouraging all year long.
So please, if you love yourself and love your family, do things which are under your control. Please wear the mask, please social distance, and please, let me redo it, Aditi.
Yes.
So if you love yourself and your family, please do yourself a favor. Wear the mask, wash your hands, and keep the distance between you and your family members. Have a little bit of patience and avoid any congregation so that you can enjoy your family for years to come. And also seriously consider taking the vaccine. 95% efficacy is very robust.
For people that have had the infection, that have tested positive, and perhaps have gone through their recovery of 2 weeks, do you recommend them to take the vaccine?
Great question. People who already have had COVID have already generated an immune response. Because this is a new virus, we don't know how long it will last. However, the recommendations at this point are people who already have had COVID vaccine, they should not take it for 3 months after having their infection. And after 3 months, they should get vaccinated.